I'm Sharon Weston. I'm one of the dietitians from the Empower program, and today we will be making some October recipes. We're going to be making a turkey sweet potato chili alongside of a purple or green and purple and orange coleslaw, and then we're finally going to finish that with making some scary, creepy mozzarella eyeball skewers. So we will go ahead and get started with our turkey chili first. And what we're going to need is a large pot on the stovetop. We're not going to be using the oven today. And so in our ingredients for our chili, we are going to be adding about 1 pound of ground turkey. I'm going to go ahead and start the heat on my pot, okay? And so we will need about 1 pound of ground turkey that we're going to add into our pot once it's hot. We're also going to be chopping up about 1 small onion, yellow onion, Vidalia onion, your choice. I'm actually going to use half of a large Vidalia onion here, so I'm just have it peeled. I have the ends cut off, and I'm just slicing it into thin slices, and then I'm going to turn that 90 degrees, and I'm just going to chop or dice my onion. Okay, we'll get that ready to go into the pot once we brown the turkey, okay? We're also going to need about 3 cloves of garlic. So I have my 3 cloves of garlic peeled here. Again, I'm chopping it in slices first, watching my fingers very carefully, and then bundling that garlic, turning it 90 degrees, and then we're going to chop it again so that we are dicing it. And then we are going to go over that pile with our knife, and we are going to chop it again to mince it, okay? So we're just using the tip of the knife, holding that down, rocking the back of the knife back and forth over that pile of garlic to finally mince it, okay? All right, and we'll get that ready to go. And then what we also are going to need is about 1 28-ounce can of diced tomatoes. Do not drain it, okay? We're also going to need some sweet potatoes that are diced. So I have my peeled sweet potatoes here, okay? And what we're going to do is first I'm going to cut them in half the short way, okay? And then I'm going to turn them on their flat sides, and I'm going to cut them in half again, okay? Always put the flat side down on your cutting board, and that makes it much safer and easier for you to cut your sweet potato, because they are pretty hard to cut through, okay? So I'm just basically cutting into diced pieces, all right? So I'm going to take all of my flat pieces, flat side down, cut it into rows, and turn it 90 degrees, and then dice it again. The smaller the pieces of sweet potato that you put in this recipe, the tastier it's going to be. They're going to be able to kind of integrate into each bite size of your chili instead of being large chunks. And they will also cook a little faster the smaller or thinner that they are, okay? So we've got 1 cut up here, almost. And this really adds a nice source of vitamin A to our recipe. This recipe is also rich in vitamin C from the tomatoes. And it's a really healthy fall recipe. Also great to have on board right before you go trick-or-treating, so that you're not skipping dinner before you go trick-or-treating. Okay, so again, we're just dicing sweet potato. We're getting our pot ready to go, nice and hot. And you can add about a tablespoon of olive oil into your pot if you haven't done that already. Last bit here. And final piece. So you're going to need either a wooden spoon or a heavy spoon. We're going to next be browning the turkey breast. If you don't have turkey breast, you could get away with using chicken in this recipe. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to use a wooden spoon, and now my pot is very hot and it has about a tablespoon of olive oil in there. I'm going to go ahead and add my meat, and we're just going to want to break up the meat. Okay, so we want to keep stirring this, all right, and we're going to just stir and break up or pound your meat so that we have nice ground crumbles of ground turkey or ground chicken if you use that instead. You could also use ground beef. All right. And when you look in the different categories of buying your ground turkey or ground chicken or even ground beef, you're going to notice that there's differences in percent fat. And so the higher the number, so 85, 90, 93, for example, the higher the number, the leaner the meat is going to be, which means it's going to give off less fat when you cook it. Okay. So we really want to make sure that this is not pink at all. Okay, I'm going to put the top on it for about a minute and let that cook so that it's really thoroughly cooked through. Right. We're also going to need about 2 cups of chicken broth. I just used chicken bouillon and 2 cups of water. We're going to be adding, let's see, about 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of cumin, 2 tablespoons of lime juice, and then optional is to add red pepper if you like it a little spicy. All right. So let's see. Go ahead and check out the meat here. That is cooking away, so we're going to, again, give this a good stir. And okay, this is pretty much ready to go for the next step. So the next step, we're going to be adding our onions and our garlic. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of scoop that in. And we're going to give that a stir. Okay. And again, I'm just going to put the lid on so that you cook this a little quicker. And what we want is for the onions and the garlic to become a little, what we call translucent, which means a little more like see-through colored. Okay, so they're going to cook for just about 5 minutes or so. All right, and I'm still having a pretty high heat. All right, and then we will get ready to throw in our next ingredients. All right, so again, if you haven't made sure that your sweet potatoes are all diced into small pieces, you can find some bigger chunks in there. You can go ahead and chop those up. All right. And then while this is cooking, we will move into our next recipe, which will be our purple coleslaw. And we're going to, you can either use purple or a combination of purple and green. You can also add carrot to it if you want. And I am going to be using a box grater for this recipe. You can also buy shredded cabbage already in the grocery store, and that makes it much easier to make this recipe. But if you don't have it and you just have the head of cabbage, I'm going to show you how to shred your cabbage using the box grater. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and check on the meat and the onions. And that is looking pretty good. They're starting to look translucent. So now we're going to move on to our next step, which is really adding all of the sweet potato. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add all that in. And so when you think about what ingredients on this recipe fall into the plate model, right? So our vegetable, green light vegetable, includes our tomatoes and onions. And then our carbohydrate, which is our yellow light carbohydrate, is really from the sweet potatoes. And then our protein is from the chicken or the turkey or the beef, whatever you decided to use. Okay. So I'm just stirring in the sweet potatoes. And now we're going to add our tomatoes. The whole can goes right in. Okay. We're also going to add in the 2 cups of broth. And we're going to give that a stir. Okay. And then finally, we're going to add our seasonings. So we're going to add about a teaspoon of cumin, teaspoon. You can add more if you like that. Totally fine. All right. You can also add a little salt in. And then we're also going to add 2 tablespoons of lime juice. I just squeezed some limes into here, so I'm just going to add that in. That really adds a zippy flavor. All right. And then we're really just going to stir this well and bring it to a boil. Again, if you want to have a little spice, you can also add some red hot pepper. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. Stir it up well. And we are really going to want to have this cooking at pretty high heat. Okay, so top goes on. And we're on to our next recipe. So our next recipe, we're going to need a large bowl. All right. And we're going to be shredding some cabbage here. All right. So we need, again, about 2 tablespoons of lime juice, 2 teaspoons of honey, a teaspoon of salt, 2 tablespoons of plain Greek yogurt. All right. And then we're also going to need our cabbage, and optional is to add some carrots into this. So I've got my box grater here, and I'm going to be using red cabbage in this recipe. When you cut open your cabbage or cut your cabbage in half, you peel it first, cut it in half. What you'll notice is there's this core here. You want to cut that out. That's the stem. It's very woody, and that's really what you don't want to shred. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just really hold this tight, and you can use either this side of the grater, all right, or this side. It just makes it a little different texture. If you use the side with the 3 slots, it's going to come out a little longer shreds. If you use this side, then it's going to come out as shorter shreds. Okay, so just at your preference, all right. And we're just going to kind of grate this up. So for a full recipe here, we're going to need about 6 cups. And that is really about half of a cabbage, I would say. If you feel like the leaves kind of peel off as you're grating, you can just pull those off and we'll slice those with a knife after. Gets a little messy, but that's okay. You just want to watch your fingers when you're grating. Okay, so we've got our cabbage here. And I'm just going to use a big knife and just take those pieces that were difficult to shred, and I'm going to just chop them up with a knife thinly. That totally works fine. Okay. Chop that up. And then we're going to add this into our bowl. You can also add a mixture of green cabbage into here. I'm also going to add a little carrot into this. So I'm going to go ahead and grate my carrot. You can do 1 or 2. Very flexible recipe. And this really gives us a good variety of colors from our vegetables. Remember, we're always trying to eat a rainbow of colors every day from our fruits and vegetables. All right, and so pretty. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that in. And then our next step is to make our sauce. It's very simple, okay? So what we are going to need is about 2 tablespoons of plain Greek yogurt. 1, 2, okay? And you can make them heaping if you want, that's fine. All right, and then we're also going to be adding about 2 teaspoons of honey. So I'm gonna add that in, 1, 2, and then we're gonna give that a good stir. We're also adding the lime juice in here, about 2 tablespoons. Okay, and give us a really good stir. It's gonna be kind of thick, but the cabbage is going to give off some liquid as it sits. And the more that this sits in the refrigerator, the more the spices all meld together. And you can see from the purple and orange, it really looks pretty Halloween themed here, you know. So, all right. And then you can add a little salt if you prefer, just a small sprinkle. I'm gonna add. And our cabbage coleslaw is ready to go. Perfect. All right, so I'm gonna put that aside. And I'm gonna just clean up our work surface for our final recipe, which is our creepy eyeballs. Meanwhile, I'm also going to just take a peek at the chili. Give that a good stir. Coming along here. And really, the chili has to cook on the stovetop for about 20 minutes or so, okay? So let's just go on to our next recipe, which is our creepy eyeballs. So you're gonna need some mozzarella balls. You're gonna need some sliced red peppers. I am using turkey salami here for this recipe, okay? And then you're also going to need some wooden skewers. You're also going to need some green olives with little pimento in them, okay? And a little small sharp knife is very handy for this recipe. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take our olives and we're going to cut our olives, each olive, into about 3 slices. That is going to be the center of our eyeball, okay? And then I'm just gonna make 3 skewers here to show you. For each one, you're going to need to take one of the cherry-sized mozzarella balls, all right? These are each 1/3 of an ounce. You are going to slice a small cut and remove a piece where you're going to put your part of your eyeball in, okay? And actually, if you cut the end of the olive, it should really be flat, so it fits in there nice and flat. Okay, so that's going to be our eyeball. You might have to cut a little more out of the cheese to really make it sit inside. Okay, so that it looks like that. Yes, perfect. All right, so I'll make 3 of those. And then we'll go ahead and start assembling. So again, you're just going to use your knife and kind of cut out a very small piece and try to make it a little deeper so that the olive piece fits in, okay? That, and last one here, like that. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start assembling. So the order of assembling is you're going to take your red pepper slice, and kind of, it's going to act like a cup to hold the cheese ball. All right, so one red pepper slice, one either piece of small salami or using pepperoni in this case here. Then you are going to skewer your eyeball onto that, okay? Then you are going to add an eyelid, upper eyelid, which is the next piece of pepperoni, okay? And then finish it off with a plain mozzarella ball. So you've got your skewer looking like that, all right? And these can be made in advance. They're a great protein-rich snack. It also has a green light vegetable, which is our red pepper. And these really are a nice, just either a small paired snack that you can also have before you go trick-or-treating, or you can team this up with your chili and have this on the side. And it just boosts your protein intake a little more. Okay, so again, we're just doing pepper, pepperoni, cheese eyeball, pepperoni, and then finish it with a plain mozzarella ball. And the last one will be, again, red pepper, pepperoni, eyeball, pepperoni, and mozzarella ball. All right, yeah, so we've got our scary skewers prepared, and now we're going to go ahead back to our chili and see how that's doing. It's really blasting away with heat here. So, this looks pretty good. If you notice that your chili is a little liquidy, that's fine. You can just keep boiling it with the lid off, and then it will get thicker. It will also get thicker if you put it in the refrigerator, because the sweet potato will absorb some of the liquid. And so this is almost ready to go. We're just gonna cook it a little longer to get some of that liquid off, okay? And so when you team all this together, what you'll have is your chili, your cabbage, your eyeball, and we will spoon this out. And you can also top your chili with some plain Greek yogurt as well, or even sour cream would work also, okay? And there you go. You're ready to go for your fall dinner. Easy to prepare in advance, and I hope you enjoy.